Huzi, formerly Zuhu. The male was born on September 21, 1989, in a cave in a gorge on the southern slope of the Qinling Mountains. Since then, Huzi became the first wild giant panda in the world to be tracked by humans from birth. Huzi is a creature born of the wild, a giant panda who also burned his life in the wild. His story can be described as an epic of survival and growth of wild pandas. Morasso, about how wild pandas are ruthlessly polished by nature. An inspirational legend of keeping fire and courage within. Let's follow in the footsteps of Huzi today. Explore his life full of challenges and wonders. Speaking of Huzi, we have to mention someone. He is Professor Wenshi, known as the father of the giant panda. For Huzi, Professor Pan is a noble benefactor to his life. In Huzi's life, Prof. Pan has saved him more than once. Professor Pan's feelings for Huzi are even more unforgettable. He had wept for Huzi more than once. September 21, 1989. A crisp autumn day, Prof. Pan led his team to wait anxiously outside a cave at the southern foot of the Qinling Mountains, waiting to welcome the arrival of a new life. He is the protagonist we are talking about today, Huzi. Since Huzi was born, the researchers set up camp nearby, became neighbors with this mother and son pair. Every time Mother Jiao Jiao goes out to forage, Prof. Pan would crawl into the cave to check and weigh the baby. Check if he is healthy. Record his growth at every stage. The power of this Qinling tyrant has emerged since he was a child. Huzi was particularly fierce even in his first month. His cry was loud, and more than once he scared away the researchers who measured him. After a while, researchers also gained the trust of Jiao Jiao. Later, Jiao Jiao went out to find food and even left Huzi to the researchers. Prof. Pan once joked that they also served as babysitters. When Huzi was 4 months old, he experienced his first danger. Jiao Jiao was out foraging as usual and left Huzi sleeping by the cave. Who would have thought that a sleeping Huzi would be targeted by a hungry weasel? He snuck in near Huzi and prepared to launch an attack. Fortunately, it was discovered in time by Professor Pan and scared the weasel away. His life hung by a thread. The distressed professor held Huzi in his arms. His heart couldn't be quietened for a while. Jiao Jiao seemed to smell danger when she returned in the evening. She picked up Huzi and moved overnight. When Huzi was less than 2 years old, Mom had long since stopped breastfeeding and started to distance away from him, even chased him away to let him leave home and roam the world. And Jiao Jiao is about to start her new love affair. However, Huzi, who is alienated by his mother, still silently followed her. Looking at what's about to happen, Jiao Jiao was like all female pandas in heat, marked secretions that attract male bears everywhere. At the same time, she will also call for male pandas in the distance to come and participate in the competition. Soon after, sure enough, a few male pandas were attracted. Jiao Jiao is lying on a big tree. There is a big male panda dabai roaring under the tree. There are also a few male pandas nearby, probably afraid of Dabi's roar, and didn't dare to come forward. However, the busiest at this time was Huzi. He watched from the tree, then he ran down from the tree and smelled Dabai, then looked up at his mother again. After that, he ran to the pandas next door to take a look, then climbed the tree to watch. However, Jiao Jiao already had a plan, that is to just stand still. Dabai under the tree still roared from time to time, very anxious. Several male cats around kept staring at Jiao Jiao, as if waiting for an opportunity, and there was a stalemate until it got dark. Jiao Jiao climbed down from the tree in no hurry. She hadn't landed yet, and heard intense biting sounds coming from under the tree. Several male cats have already exchanged blows with Dabai. Who's been waiting for a long time under the tree, biting each other. They used their wounds to defend their dignity and strength to compete for the right to mate. Jiao Jiao quietly watched these male pandas fight desperately to capture her heart, and felt an incredible sense of pride and satisfaction. And this is also her proudest moment. In the end, the powerful Dabai won Jiao Jiao's heart, and Huzi seems to see his future in such a life and death struggle. As this finding a mate fight came to an end, the mother-son relationship between Jiao Jiao and Huzi completely disintegrated. Because Jiao Jiao is pregnant, she no longer has the energy to care for grown Huzi. She hopes that the son she trained can take on the world on his own. This time, Huzi seems to understand Mom too. From then on, he began to live alone. Although Huzi, after being chased away by his mother, lived a solitary life, he still likes to live near his mother, hoping to meet her from time to time, because he was homesick. He wanted to go home, but was mercilessly blocked by his mother. Huzi was very sad, secretly laid in the grass, looking in her direction for a long time without moving. Since then, Huzi suddenly disappeared. The researchers searched everywhere, until one day, researchers accidentally discovered that Huzi was following a large white panda. Everyone was ecstatic, and wanted to find out what happened. It turns out that the giant panda is Dabai, who won the mating right during Zhao Zhao's blind date. Huzi has long worshipped Dabai's bravery. During his time with Dabai, he learned a lot of skills. In a blink of an eye, Huzi would be 3 years old. He's finally going to break out on his own, to occupy territory. He was willing to mark the territory of other pandas. One day he stopped in front of a tree that smelled of other pandas, rubbed it with his body, then bit it with teeth, ripped off the bark that smelt like other bears, until he left his mark. Little did he know that everything he did was discovered by the owner of this territory. We all know that in the panda society, brutal strife exists among male pandas who are not related by blood, in order to compete for territory to demonstrate status. When they meet, they tend to fight. And Huzi didn't know that danger was coming. Old Zan male, 6.5 years old, equivalent to about 26 years of human age. Old Zan, who was in his prime, was usually a gentleman. There's no doubt that the overlord of this area is Zan, watching a fledgling kid dare to take over his territory. Old Zan was angry, rushed up and prepared to make this boy suffer. Although Huzi at 3 years old looked very big, he was still a child mentally. This fight was a bit overwhelming for Huzi, and paid the price for his ways. He was injured. However, Huzi had developed a stubborn and unyielding personality since childhood. The lessons of this failure would help him grow better. This time, the seeds of discord with Laozan were sowed. With the assistance of Professor Pan's team, Huzi was slowly recovering. Unfortunately, not long after, Huzi accidentally stepped into a human trap. It never rains, but it pours. The smell of blood in the night rain has attracted a group of hungry jackals. Huzi fights back, but they outnumber him, and Huzi still carries injuries. At this critical juncture, Prof Pan and the others arrive just in time. He glanced at scarred Huzi, immediately springs into action, picked up his crutches and quickly engaged in combat. The entourage took up their weapons and confronted the jackals. At the same time, they kept Huzi tightly behind. The jackals saw that things were not going well. Due to the fear of human brutality, they quickly fled the scene. When Pan saw the scars all over Huzi, he shed tears of heartache. The crowd carried the injured Huzi down the mountain. Due to Huzi's serious injuries this time, and limited on-site conditions, Pan and the others sent Huzi to the Qinling base for treatment. However, he never expected that they had no ethics and didn't release him, and instead sent him to the zoo. Huzi sat on the cold concrete floor, feeling hot and cold. Sometimes he fainted, sometimes he was scared awake, holding onto cold iron bars when awake, trying to stretch his head out, missing his jungle forog. And what's even worse is, they tried to arrange marriage for the underage Huzi. However, Huzi with iron ambition honed in the wild would never obey, never give in. Even injured, the female bear the zoo arranged for a blind date. The zoo saw such a stubborn Huzi, and used electric shock to collect sperm. To see Huzi, who had been tortured silly in recent years, Prof Pan shed sad tears. Later, after he traveled uncoordinated, the zoo finally agreed to release Huzi. Huzi, who returned to his hometown again, was already 7 years old. Now he is no longer the fledgling boy he used to be. In recent years, the life behind bars gave him a heart of steel, although his territory back then had long been occupied by other bears. But for the 125 kilograms prime age Huzi, taking it back is easy peasy. He began to redraw his territory, and didn't encounter other bears who came to stop it. But But he saw the flock of jackals that led to him being imprisoned. They were besieging an old panda. Enemies explode when they meet. Angry monkeys strike quickly. One palm shattered the spine of the lead jackal. A group of small jackals quickly fled. Although this battle laid the foundation for the Qinling Tyrant, adult Huzi's combat power is far more than that. Huzi hates the garish leopard the most. As long as they are in his territory, he would attack. The innocent golden leopard was beaten. I just look better in photos. Also aggrieved are black bears. He was also on guard all day, for fear of accidentally encountering the tyrant, Huzi, and getting inexplicably beaten. One day, Huzi encountered an old rival on his way to patrol the territory. It was Zan who injured him back then. Enemies often cross paths. Huzi's chance for revenge has finally come. He immediately pounced on Zan mercilessly. Today's old Zan is no longer a match for Huzi. After a few rounds, Lao Zan, who was exhausted, was torn apart by Huzi. Even the skin on his back was torn open. He struggled down the hill. Huzi didn't chase or kill him. Although Huzi was not injured, he was exhausted. When the staff arrived, old Zan, who fell down the mountain, was on his last legs. Even the bones were clearly visible. A big bloody hole in the back. They didn't even utilize the tranquilizer gun when rescuing Lao Zan. He was carried back to the base by the staff. The vengeful Huzi has officially become the Qinling Tyrant. If he's not eating or sleeping, he's fighting. The staff found him either fighting or on his way to a fight. He single-handedly drove a group of foreign pandas down the mountain. He exhausted the rescue team for a while. Every day they carried pandas down the mountain, and the base was running out of medicines. He didn't just hit male bears. He's also ruthless towards female bears he didn't like. One day a female in heat took a fancy to him. However, Huzi didn't like the plain Jane. She wanted a heroic father for her child, and was obsessed with Huzi. Huzi would not patronize her. A fierce beating made the female run away in a hurry. Huzi had already marked the territory of his mother and younger siblings in his own territory. He's taking on the family responsibilities as the eldest son, protecting the safety of loved ones. However, Huzi chose to leave his hometown to find love. One day, Huzi fell for a girl in heat. He didn't wait gentlemanly under the tree, but climbed onto the tree and finished the 5-star difficulty mating. Huzi became a dad a few months later. From then on, Huzi was busy dating, always winning his battles through the years. Until 2006, when staff saw him again, Huzi was already elderly, and even missing half a ear, with wounds all over. His territory might already been taken over by other younger pandas. He was no longer important among pandas. In 2012, his life came to an end, fallen forever in the thick snow and fog. That year, Huzi was 23 years old. From then on, the reign of Qinling Overlord came to an end. We believe that Huzi's story and his indomitable spirit will be passed down forever.